Frucom Capital. Thanks, Nidhi. Thanks for accepting our invitation, and so nice to have you here today for an awesome session. And I believe that your guidance and your suggestion to the startups will definitely help them out. So, so today we are talking about financial modeling, which is I believe that is a core and important aspect for every startups. Whether you are planning for your business, whether you are planning to raise capital, or even when you are planning to expand your business, I think financial modeling is very much important. So I think this is a very important topic that we are gonna talk today. So Nidhi, welcome you again. Welcome everyone, and welcome all startups. And now, Nidhi, as discussed, the first 1 hour will be on your masterclass on the subject, and then the rest will discuss the question and answer of the startups. Right, over to you.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Abhishek. So, as Abhishek has rightly mentioned, that finance is a very, very important and critical aspect of any business, and it is required at all times, at all stages of business. In fact, the bigger your business gets, it becomes even more critical. So, it is always highly recommended that you maintain your books and you maintain your finances in an orderly manner right from the start. See, financial modeling is very helpful, and there are n number of benefits that you can get from keeping your finances in a proper manner. So, to name a few, firstly, very importantly, it is used to estimate valuation of your business. Then, secondly, you can calculate your risks. Thirdly, it is done for your future business prospects, like you can do your future analysis, planning, then allocating your resources. Again, allocating resources is a very critical thing because it depends on how you're utilizing your funds, where you're utilizing your funds, because ultimately the impact will be shown in your top line, that how much you've achieved by allocating your resources systematically. So all these things are very important, and these things can be achieved only if you have your numbers in front of you. How you've performed in April, May, June will decide how you will be able to perform in your July, August, and September months. So this financial modeling thing can be, as comprehensive as one wants. I mean, it can go into very much in detail, but at the same time, we have to keep it as simple as possible, because understandability is again a very important aspect in financial modeling. It is like not only for you to understand, even with those with whom you're going to share it. So understandability is again very important. So you should try to keep it as simple as possible, but you can make it in as much detailed format you want. So there's nothing that it has to be very showy with very fancy graphs and fancy pie charts and all, nothing like that. You can keep it as simple as you want. Second thing is, here I would like to specify is that there is no perfect model, guys. There's no perfect model. There is no such model that can guide you, like 100% right and 100% towards growth. But nonetheless, it does give you a very clear picture, like, of your business, and helps you take your future decisions. Your future strategic decisions, your planning. It can even help you benchmark your revenues, your income goals. So that's why it's very important. Second thing, from investor point of view, yes, it should give a complete view of your overall planned operations, your projected revenues, your projected expenses, your strategies, whatever you are doing. It will, because see, it will not only demonstrate your competence to the investor, but it will also show that you have a good sound knowledge of your business. So that's why financial modeling is very important. So here I have prepared a very simple template for you all, which I'm going to share on the screen, and will take you through line by line that how it is prepared and how it can be helpful to you. Abhishek, can I share my screen?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So is my screen visible to all?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, so it is a very simple Excel sheet here, and you see that in row 4, I have taken the months from April till March, right? And then we start with plotting it. So this is a very simple format. This can be not only used for your monthly presentations, but also for your budgets and projections also. Say for April, May, and June, you have your realistic figures, your actual figures right now. And then based on these 3 months and your past data even, you can start plotting your future months. So we start with gross revenue. Now, what is gross revenue? Gross revenue is everything that is included in your, I mean, none of the expenses are excluded from gross revenue. It's your total income that you are generating in your business. So gross revenue is the first thing that we account for. Then all these three items, your discounts that you've offered, your returns if you've had any, and your applicable taxes, whatever it is there. All these things are then subtracted from your gross revenue and you arrive at your net revenue. Now guys, net revenue is a very critical thing and a very important part, because as investors usually focus on your net revenue because this is the actual amount that you're getting in your hand from your debtors, from your sundry debtors or from your receivable parties. This is the actual thing that you're getting and not your gross revenue. Then moving on to the other income, here of course you can put in your FD interests and other income that you are getting, smaller incomes. Then comes your total income, which is a total of your net revenue and other income. Now another very important part is your COGS. What is COGS? Now here people get a lot of confusion in their minds, कि इसमें क्या डालें, what all costs should be included in COGS and what all we should not include in COGS, what is a part of operating expenses. So COGS, in a very layman and simple language, I'll explain you today is, COGS is something it's a total of all those expenses that have incurred till your product is ready in the facility to be sold outside. So till the point your product is getting manufactured, all those expenses come in COGS, and beyond that, all the expenses go in your operating expenses. This is a very layman's definition. So how do we calculate COGS? Is first you take in account in your change in inventory, that is your opening stock less closing stock, and all your purchases, be it your raw material, your packing material, anything. And then other direct expenses. Other direct expenses include again the wages that have gone into making the product, your power, fuel, electricity that have gone into, maybe running your machinery, running your plant, then your freight inwards because you're getting your raw material into the facility, or whatever other direct expenses that you can directly relate to the product that yes, they have gone into making the product. So all those costs come into COGS. So COGS is again very important because actually, it gives you the overall financial health of your business. Because from COGS, you will arrive at your gross profit margins, like net margins. Here was your net revenue. So net revenue less your COGS gives you your gross margins. And gross margins actually reflect that whether you have priced your product well or either your direct expenses and all are too high. So this is the thing that is going to actually tell that how healthy your business is. So again, this is a very, very important part. Moving beyond, then we have your other operating expenses, your freight outwards, your employee benefit costs. We all know here salaries and all will come in. Salaries, any staff welfare, even your salary as promoters or founders, whatever you are drawing from the business will come here. Your marketing and selling expenses, this I think is the favorite of everybody. Mostly people like to spend here. So marketing and selling expenses include everything, your digital marketing expenses, your brand building, your sampling, distribution, whatever that you are, putting in to sell your product. Then moving to legal and professional expenses, any kind of legal fees, registry, stamp duties, any kind of your getting your DD done, diligence, and also you're paying fees, all that will fall under legal and professional expenses. Then comes office and admin expenses. This is a very good head because anything that you don't know where to put in, just put in here. Your telephone, electricity, your repair, maintenance, office rent, everything else will come in here. Finance and interest expenses, here will come your bank charges and other finance related and expenses, like if you have an OD limit, then again your bank charges will come here, bank interest rates. Then traveling expenses. Traveling I have taken separately because it is important to see that how much you are moving around to sell your business. So that is why traveling is also very important. It even includes your local conveyance and even if you're traveling interstates. Finally, then we add up all these expenses, your total operating expenses here, and these expenses are deducted from your gross margins to arrive at your EBITDA, or we call it net profit or loss. I hope it's clear here. Now here you can also add in percentages if you want to go further into details. See, I told you can make it as comprehensive as one wants. You can add percentages to revenue, percentages to net revenue, what is your COGS percentage to net revenue, what is your gross margins percentage to net revenue, what is your net profit percentage to net revenue. All these things can be added. And similarly, once you've made it for a year, you can have a total. And in the same way, you can make it for further few years. So this is how you make your budgets and projections and even your regular monthly MIS. So moving next to your cash flow. See, cash flows are again a very, very important part, yeah, because managing your cash, managing your fund is the ultimate thing that you are actually doing. So again, it is critical and very important for your business also because it helps you take decisions or any other contingencies that might come in. So you should know your cash positions at all times. The cash flow is again very, very easy to calculate. Yeah, it is all about business. Business is all about money. Money, how much it's coming in, how much it's going out, whatever you are left with. And we talk about only hard cash here. Nothing accrued, nothing outstanding, nothing prepaid, nothing. Because we just talk about pure cash money, how much hard has come in and how much hard has gone out. So here, this is a very simple format. I've mentioned ICICI and HDFC Bank. You can, I mean, this is just a demonstration. So whichever bank you have your account with, SBI, PNB, whichever. So you have your opening balances here. You have to select a period first. Either you're doing it monthly, 6 monthly cash flow statement, or a yearly. You have to have a period, and then at the beginning of the period, you have to note down all your balances. That how much balances were there in each and every account here. How much cash was there? How much was there in each bank account? And what was your FD? And here
Maybe
is your total.
1 minute, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone has one question. Hi, Satya. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay.
No, it's by mistake. I'm sorry.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Okay, we can take up the questions once I've finished. Meanwhile, they can, just note down whatever they're having any confusions or anything.
Sure.
Oh.
Yeah, please go ahead, Nidhi.
Yeah, okay. So now here again, once you have made your total of all your opening balances, then we see all the receipts, all whatever has come in into the business, whether you receive from your debtors or in the form of your share capital money or in the form of interest on your FDRs or whichever way, anyways whatever money has come in, you have to put in here. And then we make a total, that is the amount received during the month. The total is only of these figures, which we put here. So this way you know that how much inflow has been there in the period from your business. Then we come to payments. All kind of payments that you've made in that period, you have to record here. Whether you've paid to creditors for any type of services, goods, service, legal, digital, rent, commission, you've paid for any kind of fixed assets that you've purchased, any other kind of expenses, you've paid some loans, your TDS and other statutory payments, your salaries, any deposits, any other type of expenses that you've incurred, all those will come here. Again, guys, no outstanding payments will come here. Only the ones that you have paid will only come here. And then we make a total amount, total of all that has gone out of the business here, which is called the total outflow of the business. So total amount paid during the month will come in here, which is the total of all these. Then next comes your net cash flow or net in cash flow, either inflow or outflow, which is your total whatever you have received less total whatever you have paid, and that is equal to your cash burn. So we all know that what cash burn plays as an important role in your business, because you will then be able to see that how much you are left with, whatever is your closing balance, and how much is your cash burn, which is actually going to give you that how much now for how many more months you can sustain yourself, which is called a runway. So it will provide you with a runway, and this is how you can plan your future fund requirements, which is again a very, very critical part. So that's why cash flow is very important. So ultimately, then you get your closing balance. So closing balance is nothing, opening balance plus your inflows less all your outflows, and you should be able to arrive at your closing balance. And these should tally as per your bank statements. Here, shall we move ahead? Okay, so moving on to now, balance sheet is not, I mean, it is as per you, you want to maintain it or you don't want to maintain it. But from an investor point of view, there are few things that are very important in balance sheet. So that is first your trade payables and current liabilities. And in asset side, your inventory, trade receivables, cash bank balances, any loans advances that you've given, and any other current assets. These things are the ones that actually, attract the investors' eyes. They would like to see their numbers here. That aapka kitna is due to and kitna is due from. So these are the figures that are important, and from these figures only we calculate our working capital. Now, guys, again, working capital also is a very important part of finance because it helps you to flow your business in an uninterrupted manner, because it prepares you for any kind of contingencies, and it also helps you in improving your liquidity. So working capital, it's a very simple formula. You have to just add up all these liquidable current assets, which are easily convertible into liquid. Your inventory, your trade receivables, your cash, your any loan that you've given, and any other current assets that you have, your accrued interest and all. And then you have to less your trade payables and other current liabilities from it, and you arrive at your working capital. And working capital, see, name is only such that you can easily understand what is working capital. It's a part of capital that is still in a workable mode, that you can, run into your business multiple times and you can generate business through it. So, आपका working capital जितना ज़्यादा होगा, उतना you will be able to turn your money around. So that is why it is very important, and that is why it helps you in an uninterrupted flow of business. Okay, shall we move next? So moving next is your, see, CapEx have not done much detailing here, but yes, CapEx is again a very important part, that how much initial investment is going into your capital expenditure. So there are just few heads that I've taken. These are the broad heads in which most of the things can be covered, and then you can, plan year-wise, year 1, year 2, year 3, that how much investment would be required at the end of each year for your capital investment. Either you are taking a land or you are leasing a land. If you're leasing a land, then your lease rental will go into your MIS. But if you're buying a land, then your investment cost will come here. Same is the case with building. If you're buying a building or you're constructing a building, all those costs will come here. In case you are renting a building, your rent will go again in your MIS. You're buying any plant and machinery, any kind of equipments that you need, that will fall in here, whatever you're budgeting for. Then any kind of office you're hiring for furniture, fixtures, your laptops, anything, any vehicle, or any other kind of fixed asset that you are thinking or you're planning any kind of capital expenditure anywhere, that will come here and you make a total. So this total together with your OPEX total, together with your running cost, the working capital cost that I was saying, the total running cost of your business adds up here and will tell you in year 1 how much fund will be required by your business. Accordingly, you can, assume your year 1, year 2, year 3, whatever expenditures you're making, make a total of it, add your OPEXs, and then make a total of it so that you arrive at your yearly fund requirement. And accordingly, you can plan your business ahead. Okay, guys, so this was a small presentation for you just to help you out, that how you can, prepare your MIS in businesses. So I've done it very quickly, I think. Any questions?
Yeah. Thanks, Nidhi.
Thank you.
Thanks for a wonderful presentation on the financial modeling. So can you please give us some insights, little bit on cash in hand part, especially in cash inflow and cash outflow, because that's very important for any startup to understand and to visualize the things ahead, that what capital what cash will be in hand after 3 months, after 4 months. So I think that is what is very, very important to understand. So I would like to run
Yes.
it once again to all of them,
Okay. Okay.
especially
So
cash
you
in hand
want me
part.
to? Okay. Okay. I'll share that screen again.
Yeah, sorry.
Any question? Okay. So I'll share the screen again. So once I'm sharing my screen, I'm not able to view people. So if anybody has any questions, please just speak up. Yeah. So as I told you that cash flow is very important because it not only measures your cash position of your business, it also helps you to know the availability of your future funds. So here I will again explain you why and I mean how it is done. So we take the opening balances of any period. Say we are taking it for the month of April, right? So as on 1st April, what was your balance? So whatever it has been, say your cash balance was 10,000 something, and then in your one bank you had 20 lakhs, something like that, and then you arrive at a total, and then you arrive at a total that this much was your opening balance, right? And then from here, whatever you have received, you start jotting it down. Yeah, in the month, how much have you received actually? Maybe कुछ returns भी आ जाते हैं. You had given some advances, so advances also get returned. Okay, the business is not going further. So all those will also be coming in here, and you have to note down everything that you are receiving, either from your debtors or in the form of your share capital money that you've raised, and even your interest that has come on your FDRs or any other mode of payment that has come into your, even if you have sold any of your fixed assets which were not of any use, all those sale receipts will also come here. So any form of cash that is coming into your hand, either in cash mode or into the banks directly, will come here together. So then we add up all this, whatever you have received here, we add it up, and this is how you arrive at the figure. And then all the payments that you've done. See, what Abhishek I think was mentioning was that why it's important. I should be telling you why it's important. See, cash flow is something, I mean, it helps your business know your availability of cash, that how much funds you have, with you right now, and how much you are burning actually every month. See, here I told you that when you see the difference between your outflows and inflows, you arrive at your cash burn. See, say for example, your cash burn is 15 lakhs, yeah, in a month, and say you are left with a balance of say only 75 lakhs, yeah. So now your for how many more months you can sustain your business, and now at what stage you should look for infusion of funds into your business. So that is what is the importance of your cash flow, because this is a very critical and a very crucial part, because it helps you take your decision that yes, now is the right time to take your decision. So here, see, if you see 75, and how many months, yeah, how many months it lasts? 5 months, only 5 months. So now this is the right time. It tells you the right time that this is the time you should start preparing to get funds into your business. Because by the time you start the procedure, you will reach the investors, all those legal formalities and all will be done. It will take 3 months, 4 months, and agar COVID aa jata hai beech mein, then again thoda sa prolong ho jata hai. So this is the right time you should start thinking about raising funds or raising capital. So this is what it actually tells you and gives you a clear picture that when you should start planning to infuse more funds into your business. So it depends upon your cash burn. So if you have these figures, that how much is your cash burn per month, you can take out an average also. You can take out monthly your cash burn, say April, May, June, and then you can say that okay, average my monthly burn is coming say 20 lakhs a month or say 10 lakhs a month, and I am left with only this much money in banks or in hand. This much is my only cash in hand. So now your fund will last for 6 months, 4 months, 8 months, 10 months, and accordingly you will start planning. That now you have to get in more money from your investors or from wherever you want to raise, right? Any questions? Any questions anybody has?
Yeah, hi Nidhi, Arun this side.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi Nidhi. Actually, I just want to understand Basically, we are into selling of medicines, and we do have an MRP, and then we do have a cost of purchase. So in that particular instance, should we consider the cost total sale per day as a GMV or the revenue? Because 100 rupees is my cost, and I'm purchasing it for 90. I'm making an operating margin at 10 rupees. So should I consider it as a revenue or a GMV?
You are working on a commission-based model, I guess, or a fee-based
Yeah.
model, is it?
Yes.
So
Yes.
your GMV would be your gross revenue that you've collected, and actually your revenue would be your commission. That will be whatever it is, your 1%, 0.5%, 2%. That is your actual revenue, and your GMV is the total merchandise that you've sold. The worth of the total merchandise that has been sold through your brand or through your website or through whatever, that will be your total GMV. And your revenue would be your commission part, your fee part.
Okay. So out of that revenue, we are saying if say 100 rupees is my cost of medicine or the MRP, I purchase it for 90, I make it 10%, so 10% is my revenue. Out of
Yes.
that revenue, I get my expenses done, and then we get to the EBITDA, right?
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Right. So who is next? Nidhi, also, I would like to understand one thing here, because a lot of startups are here looking to raise funds in nearby future. So from an investor's point of view, what exactly growth percentage month on month generally expected by any investor, and up to what number? And that's very important, because you are the part of a venture capital fund. You are looking a lot of startups, financial models every day, each and every day. So I think you'll be best to answer this question. Yeah.
So there's, from an investor point of view, if you look at the figure, see, again, it depends on which sector you are in what industry you are in. Every industry has a standard, that usme itna hi gross margin aa sakta hai. So, but generally, if you talk about, then we definitely, any gross margin between say 60 to 70%, 50 to 70% is good, if you talk about the gross margins part. But again, depending upon the industry, there are certain industries where the gross margins are even lower than this. But then again, it depends on from which sector you are and what sector you are in. But generally 60, 70 is a healthy, it gives overall a healthy picture of the business.
Okay, great. And this is what this is up to what number? Suppose my net revenue is 1 lakh, then it is okay. If my net revenue is 60-70 lakhs, then
Right.
what percentage of growth is generally expected by investors?
If your net revenue is 1 lakh, so you can look at a growth of, again, depending 10% every month, 10, 15% every month. Monthly, you can expect. Because see, growing from 1 to, in the initial years, it is very easy in doubling your numbers from 1 to 110, 120, 130. It is easier. But once you have reached a benchmark, say, of 1 crore, then things get a little thing, and then you have to, then your growth percentage, you can, it can get a little slower, but definitely, because now since your value has increased, so ultimately, even if you are not doing 10% and you're doing 8%, it will give you a good jump in your volume. So as your business starts growing, then to maintain it, it takes a little bit, a hard work. So that's it.
Okay.
And Nidhi, if there is multiple revenue sources,
Yeah.
how do you keep an account of that particular growth rate? So in case for me, the number of retail partner growth where I'm selling medicines, the growth I've kept it around 30%. Maybe the retail partners who are also giving me patients for a digital consulting, the growth rate I have figured out based upon my historical data is around 10%, right? So I am not considering the 30% growth on the retailer. I'm considering 10% growth as on the on the OPD side. So if there is multiple revenue sources, how do you keep an account and have a standard growth on the whole revenue projection?
So you can take out an average, I mean, see, whatever Now see here you go as per your like how much you did last month, and then how much you did last month. So you take out an average that this is how my growth is, projecting 15% or 20% or 30%, how much ever it is coming. Say your few of the companies are giving you more growth, and few other companies are giving you less growth. But maybe the commission that you're charging from the company those who are giving you less growth is more than the commission that you're charging from the companies that are giving you more volume of your business. So again, it is better that you average it out and see that how much growth is coming on an average from month to month. If it is coming at 20% or 10% or 30%, accordingly you will have to budget it for future also.
And what should be the ideal EBITDA margin you think should be in the projection?
The ideal EBITDA initially, if you show it positive, we see everything is hypothetically or firstly, right? So even initially, if you are showing a negative EBITDA, it's okay because we know that yes, initially your expenses are going to be too high, but as soon as you start touching a little bit of volume and some traction, and you start generating numbers on your top line, and gradually your EBITDA decreases and you reach a break-even point. And then beyond that, then you can show your positive EBITDA. So it has to be a flow, that first your EBITDA was into negative, then you reach a break even, and then you start rising. It's never that you are very, or you show a very over ambitious budget and then you show a very over ambitious EBITDA. It should never be like that. It should be realistic. I mean to say that it should be not very over ambitious, but you should be close to reality also.
And what the amount of money that is to be raised, and until unless we reach that operational break even, do we consider that particular sum of amount to be raised for the first round and then consider that, or what should be the exact amount that we should ask?
Your amount raised, it depends upon your valuation and your multiples. Yeah, I mean, what you use for what multiple you're using for your valuation, 2x, 3x, 4x, 8x, whatever. And accordingly, see, EBITDA does play a role, but we all know that for any startup to have a positive EBITDA initially, it is difficult. Rather, I would say it's impossible. If you're showing a positive EBITDA, then if you're already in profit, why do you need the money? So, of course, to grow and expand. So, but that comes only once you've reached your break-even point. So, EBITDA ke saath slowly, gradually, whatever. See, you can. Again, I'm telling you, see, projections and budgets, they are all hypothetical figures. Ultimately, even if you go with a particular valuation to the investor, there are going to be negotiations further, and there's going to be another second agreed value which you will have to, agree upon, and accordingly you will be able to raise your funds. So ultimately, there is this part of negotiations also. So it's not always that the particular valuation that has been arrived at is the final one. So there are again negotiations further that.
Thanks, Nidhi. Satya, yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Nidhi. It was a very good elaborated session that you have presented. So I have few questions like how should one value its startup at a very early stage? And like for example, if somebody is interested to invest on you, what would be the equity dilution parameters should be considered, and what kind of exit strategies should be given to the investor?
Yeah, so
Because
exit.
I'll tell you, out of my experience, like these are the very repeated questions that we come across.
Yeah. So see, for a very early stage startups, depends, see how much traction you've had. I mean, what kind of transactions have happened? What is your social market presence? All these things, make up for your valuation. Because valuation for any, see, if you've come up with any, say, brand new idea for which there is no competition so far, so how will you do the valuation? Again, it is
Yes.
again very, very hypothetical thing. So उसमें भी further आप कुछ भी उसमें valuation करवा लो, further उसमें negotiations वगैरह होते ही हैं, and accordingly only a set of a definite figure is arrived. So there is nothing that, yeah, this is there and this is final and this is the actual valuation. that can never be there. And even if you've had some traction, some transactions you've had, basis that again we see the company standards, we see the other competitors, and accordingly then we judge. Then mostly see valuation is done on DCF method only. So usme bhi then again there are again projections we see for another 5 years. These are all hypothetical things. At early stage pe just try to bring out the best that you can from your company. You know, whatever you're starting, that आपको maximum valuation मिल सके and maximum round you can raise. This is what my session from a finance point of
Sorry,
view.
we lost you. Hello.
Sorry.
Hello.
So I said that see, for any startup, what I was saying that if you are new, if you've come up with something very new, a very new idea which has never come ever before, we have not come across. There's no competitor also. Again, the things are all hypothetical.
Nidhi, I'm not able to hear you. Like the voice is breaking on your side.
Shall I switch my video off? Maybe that will be better. Am I audible now?
It's better now. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Hello.
So I was saying that for valuation, you can, you know, for any kind of early stage companies, it is a little bit hypothetical because we usually follow the DSF method in valuation. What has been your NVPs and all that is very. I mean, we decided on basis on your projections only. So it again depends your what sector you are in, what kind of competition you have, what kind of industries are there around you as your competitors. Based on those, then based on your discounted cash flows, then accordingly we arrive at the valuation. But if you come up with some very, very new idea, if I was saying that if you have, you know, something for which, I mean, there has been no other business so far and you've come up with something very new, totally new into the market, uska valuation karna is slightly, again, difficult. And again, it is very, very hypothetical. That's what I've been saying. And it all, you know, depends again. These things are, you know, these things I cannot comment exactly that this will be your valuation and this is how it will be done, whether it be 2x, 4x, 5x, what multiple we are going to choose. That again, you know, depends. It all depends on how your business is, what traction you've had so far, how much you're planning to, you know, we are planning to do and how much we're planning to get in future. So it all depends upon that.
What should be the
so for exit strategies, you mean exit from I mean, exactly what do you mean by your exit point? I didn't get that. If you could just repeat your question.
Yeah, normally at initial early stages in early stage fundings, what happens is the investors ask for what is the exit plan that you have for us.
ये तो आप बहुत बाद की बात कर रहे हो. Exits usually don't happen, you know. You have a blocking period of 3 years, 5 years. Beyond that, only exit points happen. And see, I come from a finance point of view. These are legal things. And for this, either Stanley or Abhishek from our team would be able to guide you better. But yes, there are exit strategies. There are exit clauses in which you have certain, you know, see, for a promoter, you as a promoter, as a founder, for you, I can say yes, there is a promoter employment agreement. And there are many terms and conditions that are there, like without the permissions of your major investor or something, you will not be able to resign or you will not be able to go out of the business. But yes, there are certain strategic sale clauses are there where you can transfer your shares or you can, you know, exit, like you have a drag along right or tag along right, or your other type of rights are there in which you can, you know, exit from the investor can exit any moment. There is no restriction on it. But yes, see, these things are there in your agreements. When you make your agreements, all these terms and conditions are mentioned in that, and they are mutually agreed upon between you and your investor. If your investor says, I don't want any kind of restriction on my shares, that means they don't want. I mean, anytime they want to exit, they can exit. But yes, you can put a clause there that yes, you cannot, sell my shares to any of my competitors. So all these type of things are there. I mean, it's again a very, very comprehensive and a very detailed thing. There are many conditions to it. So that I think I would suggest that you discuss it with anybody who deals up with legal matters. Here,
Okay.
my discipline is purely finance.
Okay.
So
Okay.
thanks, Nidhi. So Satya, I'll give you one answer for your question on exit. See, basically, investors, when you are going to meet any investors, the investors would love to see what is your exit strategy for them. So I I think they want to see how much entrepreneur is open for this, right? One is from the second round or third round of raising capital, and one is in it might be any acquisition kind of model for you, right? So they want to see how much entrepreneur is open for both of this, right? See, IPO comes very later, but how much you are interested to be acquired by someone else, if there is any chance, and how much you are ready to raise a second, third, or fourth round of capital, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank
one
you.
like, please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Nidhi.
Hi. Hi,
Good morning.
Nidhi.
One
Nidhi,
like, Biba, please, you'll come after one life. Yeah,
Sure, sure, sure. Okay.
yeah, one like, please go ahead.
Okay.
yeah, hi. Thank you, Abhishek, and thank you, everyone. Hi, Nidhi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Nidhi, my name is Saman. I'm one of the co-founders of One Life, and we are into mental health care and wellness. So we are a
Great.
startup since last 1.5 year. And in the previous model, we were into more of, offline model, wherein we used to do face-to-face counseling more often. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we have done couple of attractions because we have not spent much on the marketing part. And post pandemic and lockdown, like we are in a verge of completely transforming into a online model wherein we can expand into the national level, okay, pan India level. So now
Okay.
the thing is this: while as a early startup, we are getting some few hardships to get the funding. So the business model that we carry and the finances, I would like to discuss with you, regarding the kind of traction that we already had, and the kind of amount that we want to raise as of now, and how we can do the financial breakups and everything.
Okay. So
Yeah,
basically, you want to understand. See, first, I need to understand what you want. Is that how you can attract investors, right? From
absolutely,
your,
yes.
yeah. So, what's your name? Sorry, one
Summon,
line.
summon, summon.
Summon, yeah, summon.
Yeah.
So here, see, you have to first make your a sort of a deck, a presentable deck. See, wherein
Hmm.
you can put in your all projections, your expected revenues, what you are expecting in future, what is your basically your strategy that you're going to follow, and then after following your strategy, where you want to reach after say 5 years. So all that you'll
Hmm.
have to put it down in the kind of model that I showed you. That was a very, very simple way. And then accordingly, see, when any investor invests in any early stage company, numbers matter secondary. First thing is the
Hmm.
founder. First thing is the
Okay.
founder that matters, right? If you have the
Hmm.
potential to convince the investors that yes, you have the sound knowledge of your business, you are competent enough, we know and we understand as investors that yes, this founder is of substance and he will be able
Hmm.
to take it forward. So then we invest actually on the founder and not on your numbers are a thing that we know कि yeah ये founder में दम है ये इसका double भी कर सकता है whatever he's projecting. So this is how we
Okay.
look at it. So don't worry about that. Just prepare your budgets, prepare your model, and invite investors. I'm sure you will get.
Okay. So Nidhi, I have already prepared, the pitch deck and everything. Okay. So is it possible, like, can we have a conversation 1:1? Not in this, because I don't want to take much of other people's time. So I can send you
Okay.
the pitch deck, and maybe you can go through it, and you can let me know what all changes required if possible, and we can do that.
Sure, we can do that maybe post the session.
I think
Yeah,
even
yeah, sure, sure.
Saman, I think you take a one more round. We have a pitch deck, pitch perfection round and all. So
Mm-hmm.
after investing into that session, then we can have a more curated version to Nidhi if you want to. But
Yeah, yeah, sure.
immediately, I think in couple of sessions after we have a pitch perfection session, and
Okay.
you can just look at. And today, whatever we learned, we can look at into your financial updates and corrections, whatever
Mm-hmm.
required. Then we
Okay.
can better curated versions of that, which Nidhi can help you if she wishes to.
Sure,
Right.
sure. Thank you, Mr. Patnaik. Yep. Thank you, Nidhi.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Biba wanted to ask something.
Yeah, Biba, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Nidhi. Wow,
Hi.
what a very wonderful sessions we are all having currently. Thank you so much for such an enlightening session, Nidhi. I
Thank you.
wanted to ask, see, if there is a product, it's an OTT product, and we are currently developing it, and we are in a basic product mode में हैं हम लोग अभी. What should be the financial projection, and how would one create a financial projection for a product which is already in a basic development stage or a basic marketing stage? How one can make it? So basic financial projection. Yeah.
Yeah, so you are starting from zero, right? So
Yes.
you're right now in the development stage, but you must have done a little bit of your market research
Yes.
or
Yes.
some feasibility study you must have conducted that yes, where you're
Yeah.
and how and what is your target group to whom you will
Correct.
be, yeah. So
Yes.
based on that, you can start with the very basic, see, the kind of template that I showed you. In
Yes.
that, you can start with your gross revenue, plotting your gross revenues and net revenues month by month. Say, for example, you are planning to launch, say, next month. So next month, how
Okay.
much you're planning to do? Say maybe worth only 5,000 worth of revenue, maybe. Then maybe
Yes.
next month you can do say 15, and then you jump to say 75,000, and then you cross 1.5 lakhs. So this is how month on month you can start projecting, and based on those projections, expenses how much you are incurring, right? It's just the top line that you have to budget for
Right.
initially, so that you can do easily. There's no rocket science there. And see, as I told you, there's no perfect model. You can never be 100% right in the beginning.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
after you had some traction, after you have had some transactions, I mean, maybe say 6 months or maybe 1 year down the line, then you will be able to make it even better. You will know that in which direction your business is moving and how it will actually move further.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this lockdown has created a lot of hassles. Actually, we are unable to
Yeah.
shoot our things and unable to properly market it because we need content library for our OTT. So everything is in a very strange manner. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
trying
much.
times for everyone. Yeah, yeah.
I
COVID has
know.
hit everybody badly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nidhi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Satyabrata, yes, please go ahead.
Hi Nidhi, thanks for this session. And my name is Satyabrat. I'm one of the co-founder of Bonvi Technology, and we are developing an electric vehicle. Okay, which is you have heard about flying cars or flying taxis and that type of a vehicle. Okay, it's you can call electric aircraft, which is completely carbon free and fast way of commuting goods and people. Okay, so we are at pre-revenue stage, and mm, I believe when we are doing the financial modeling, there is the entire sheet that we prepare is all of assumptions, right?
Right.
We are forecasting each and every expenditures that we are going to incur, right? And the revenue also we are going to earn. So in these stages, when this type of company, let's say, approaches you, okay, and when you are evaluating this type of company, what are some of the key assumptions that you are going to look at?
Key assumptions. See, your assumptions is basically your demand at this point. I think that demand for your type of vehicles, you can assume that yes, you will be able to create demand because this is a very new concept that you're coming up with and a very great one also, what I feel. And इसके लिए you see, assumptions can be anything. Ki there is no COVID now. This is also an assumption that yes, there's not going to be any third, fourth, fifth wave. This is my assumption. So assumptions is again, basis anything like You can assume that interest costs will not rise. I mean, there are many kinds. Yeah, depends upon the sector that you're coming from, what kind of assumptions you can think of. So majorly your contingencies or things you can, plan and think that yes, इनको भी आप assumptions में रख सकते हो. So assumptions में you can think that yes, there won't be any kind of cuts and all. You will always be having sufficient funds. You will always be having an uninterrupted sort of a business flow. There's not going to be whatever you need. You will be So actually, I really, without looking at your model, it's very difficult for me to say that what kind of assumption. But yes, you can assume certain things that yes, your demand and all will always be there, and based on these demands, you can further project your numbers.
Okay. All right. And when basically this is an capex heavy business again, right? The slide that you, the sheet that you showed where land and you had machineries, those expenses, right? Those are there. So when you basically forecast them at a pre-revenue stage on, let's say you use 2 or 3 machineries and next year you will be either doubling them and then further up. So is there an assumption there also that that is something that as in a bit technical, but I'm not asking you from the technical standpoint, but from when you look at it, how do you like from
Assumptions,
like a financial person?
yeah. So why do we do assumptions? We do assumptions to cover our risks, right? We assume that we are going to have any sort of risks.
Yeah.
So that is what assumptions are. So whatever risks are involved in your business, all those things you can assume that yes, there won't be any. In a nutshell, this is what assumptions are, that you will not be facing this risk, that risk, whatever risks you feel are associated with your kind of business. So for those risks, all those risks, you can create an assumption that yes, this will not happen, this will not happen, this will not happen. Say if you are in a earthquake prone area, you can assume there are not going to be any earthquakes. This is just an example that I'm giving you. So these are the kind of assumptions that you can make. And again, I'm saying assumptions are assumptions. They can also go wrong. There's no harm in that. But yes, you can assume anything. You can assume that, oh, okay, I already have the land. I don't have to include the cost of the land. So that can also be a kind of an assumption.
I think Satya asking more specifically as an investor, if you like his product and the whatever the other common points of investment, then what would be your assumption? Like at this condition, like they haven't come up with the prototype and all. So at this point, if an investor wants to invest in this product, then what assumptions the investor will take into consideration? So let's say an angel want to put a couple of crores on him, 1 crore or so. So looking at the product being so new and its application areas, what are the demand and sort of that. What would be the investor's perspective of assuming on the product and the business to at this stage?
See, when any such a stage company, a pre-revenue sort of a company comes, usually we definitely like to do a survey first that okay, he's come up with a very new concept, a new project sort of thing. So how well the acceptability is there in the market. So we do conduct a survey. So any big investor you're looking at will conduct a survey of your product in the market, that how well it is acceptable. First thing, if the product is acceptable, then see whatever figures that you put in as your, say, revenues, your expense, your capital expense. So all those things can be set off with the customer or with the market acceptability of your product. So that is what an investor will see at a pre-revenue stage company.
So let's say, can the startup also help you in this regard? Like if they have some, authentic valuation of this particular the market and demand, and if some other analogies like, I think some of the startups who have been into other things, they have started investing here and generated a very good pre-revenue kind of valuation, around 100 crores or so. Isn't it, Satya? I think
Yeah.
LinkedIn co-founders have raised a very good pre-revenue, valuation of their company, just proposing certain, idea in this particular spectrum. So that sort of analogies and some
Yeah.
authentic valuation and some other preparatories from the side of, you know, startup and founder can also help the investor to have on a new product to have an idea on that.
No, you're quite right. So when we are trying to predict the future, so we have to actually look at the past also. So past may what has been the acceptability, how people have a mindset, and accordingly going forward. So building a model is actually you have to first fully analyze a set of historical financial data, or some you link some projections to the historical data as a base for the model. So depending on that how you have arrived at your gross margins and all these things are taken into account. But yes, I think on this, I think maybe Abhishek can say throw light more.
See, basically what really happens, you are at a pre-revenue stage, and you want to attract investors. Is this the question, right? So basically, it at this point of time, there are two things. One is, do you have a first mover advantage? If you have a first mover advantage, and in the pre-revenue stage, at the prototype stage, have you done the prototype ready? Is your prototype liked by the people who are experts in that particular industry? So I think in these situations, I think you should tap to only those investors who are ready to invest, or who have the capability to understand that particular industry, so that they will be able to understand the prototype which you're working with, maybe ready or maybe not, how it will actually work in the market, how it will actually will go to the market, will land in the market, what will be the response, right? So those type of investors will come in your board, and they can back you up. I think that is the answer from my side. Otherwise, if you are looking to any sort of investors, or maybe any sort of institutional investors, I think they will definitely ask for you for the market validation. Otherwise, you cannot raise any funds for that. So if you have first mover
Yeah.
advantage, then obviously you should try to actually attract or tap that particular investors who are into those fields only, right? And also, in terms of financial modeling, there are two aspects. One is to idea to prototype. So you have to design a financial model to idea to prototype, and then you have to design a prototype to go to market, and then so on, right?
Right. So actually, for a pre-revenue company, even your revenues are an assumptions only, right? Even whatever you are assuming, say you think you will be able to sell, say 50 vehicles in a month, that is again your assumption only. So for a pre-revenue model, for a pre-revenue financial model, everything is a sort of an assumption, right?
Yeah, Nidhi, got it.
If I talk about your particular
Mostly,
product, investor would love to understand, and will they have doubt, when you launch your product into the market, will it be, will it satisfy the customers? How can you convince them there won't be any issue in your product, right? Because that is very new. So no, that's a very important challenge for all of them. So until and unless, if investors is not from that background, or investors are not into the research background, I think they won't be able to back you up, right?
Certainly, Abhishek. Yes, got it. Thank you.
Yes, Arun, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi Nidhi. Basically, I want to have a very specific questions no, regarding the valuation. When once we are calculating the valuations, we are calculating the NPV, and how are we calculating the NPV? We are discounting the cash flows, right? So
Right.
in that particular discounting factor, like the weighted average cost of capital, the beta value is also there. Is there, the investors and the founders do negotiate the beta value or the weighted average cost of capital, or it is taken standard as around 10 to 12%?
Arun, I lost your last 10 seconds. After beta value, what did you say?
I'm saying the after the beta value, so that the weighted average cost of capital, is it considered like a very standard 10 to 12%, or they have a specific numbers in their mind, considering the industry that we are in?
See, no, no. See, which again, I'm telling you the same thing, Arun. See, whatever valuation you've arrived at, that you've got from a registered valuer, basis on your DSF and your multiples and whatever traction you've had so far, everything. Whenever you go for fundraising to an investor, there's again, negotiations that are done, and finally, your valuation at a certain point is agreed upon. So even if you have a weighted average method, that is also okay. So there is nothing as such in particular कि बस ये हो गया and that is final, right? So there are always further negotiations after that, and then accordingly, valuation is arrived at.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Arun. I'll add into Nidhi words. Valuation is not something you cannot decide on few things, right? It's a very intense process. It can be decided only through the DCF method, right? What is your net revenue per month?
My net revenue is around 7 lakhs.
7 lakhs. So that comes around 84 lakhs in a year, right?
Yeah.
So you just don't take it very a kind of thing to take it very seriously, and you cannot just compare it with DCF method. But I'll give you one number. If your the sales number is 85 lakhs per annum, then your valuation could be 7 to 8 times of that. You can predict that, but yes, you have to back it with
I agree, Abhishek, but then you have to consider the past valuation of the other companies that they have raised
this
in a
is
similar
why
manner.
I told you. This is why I told you it depends on certain other factors as well. The people who are in the same industry, the startups who are in the same industry, how much valued by other investors, how much valuation they have got in the past, right? You have to consider this also. But yes, depending on your net sales, I think it could be 7 to 8 times of your net sales.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, please, Dipti, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Nidhi. So this is Dipti Mohanty. So I just have to know regarding this cost of goods sold. So for a startup, so before moving to the revenue or to the market, it needs the product development. So what is the limitation of the cost of goods sold?
You want to know what all is included in cost of goods sold? What
Yes.
limitation? I'll explain you what is cost of goods sold is any kind of expenditure, that you are incurring in making the product. Beyond that, nothing comes in COGS.
Right.
After your product has been made in the facility and it's packed and ready to move out. So beyond that, all the expenses are your operating expenses. Even if you are making it, even if you're taking the product to the customer or to any of your distributors, so all those freight outwards, everything will be a part of your operating cost. COGS only includes your direct cost that is included in the product. Say if you have a pen in front of you, the pen shows the plastic, it shows the metal, it shows the ink, it shows the refill. So all that material, it is there directly into the product is your direct cost, and that is a part of your COGS. The labor involved, the electricity, the power, and whatever that you've used for the machineries to make the product, all that is involved. So all those comes into your COGS. And beyond that point, everything is your operating expenses.
Yeah, right. So, but for a startup, suppose we have not raised any funds for a early startup, but
Okay.
they are spending everything from the pocket. So there
Mhm.
should be some maximum limit that we should restrict the startup that you should spend that much of amount for the development of this product.
No, there is no such boundary. Yeah, you can spend any amount on your R&D. Right now, you're in. If you're into a product development stage,
Right.
so that all you can capitalize also. That all you can capitalize also. But then mostly all those sort of expenses go into your R&D. These are your research and development expenses. These are not part of your COGS if you're into the development stage.
Okay.
Once you come into the production stage, only then the COGS come into picture. So
Okay.
till the time you are into the development stage, all this is a part of your research and development.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, who is next? Guys, you can clear, you can share all of your doubts, and Nidhi will answer this. So it's a very important topic that we are discussing today, the financial modeling. I think the most important topic for a startup. So any of your doubt, if it is with you, please share so that Nidhi can answer it. So Nidhi, meanwhile, people are coming up with their questions. Can you just give your insights on that particular thing, this particular thing, that being an investor, as you are an institutional investor, so what sort of financial modeling you would like to see, right? Because I you must have seen a lot of financial modeling papers from a lot of startup companies. So what sort of financial model you would like to see, and where, as an institutional investors, where is your focus on the overall financial model? I think that will help everyone here to understand while they are preparing any financial model for investors.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, as an investor, honestly, what I would look at in your financial model is your gross margin, main thing, that how healthy we can think that your company is. Along with your gross margins, then we come to your net margins and your performance marketing. These are the three, four things that we emphasize upon. And secondly, we always want to see a simple model. We never want to see any complicated models. The more simpler it is, the easier to understand, and that is what we would always prefer as investors, because we don't want to spend so much of time on it, right? So we would want it कि यार एक बार में एकदम से समझ में आ जाए कि yeah, this company is doing so much well. These are the numbers, and this is how it's moving ahead. So basically, is your gross margins that is very important. So again, for your gross margin, your COGS are very important. So COGS, your gross margins, and your performance marketing, and ultimately your EBITDA. So these are the three, four things that we look at. And second thing is your cash flow statement, if you've had any. So if you've had, like, say, business for, say, 1.5 year old company you are, then we would definitely be interested in looking at your cash flow, that how well you are managing your funds. This is what we look at. We don't see that how much is left in your bank, how much is, that is of course there, because that is why you are coming to us for investment. But otherwise, we would like to see how well you have managed your funds. So that is also what we look at from your numbers.
Okay. So Nidhi, what you consider into performance marketing?
So performance marketing, we look at that how much you are spending on your say advertisements and all, and for your digital marketing vis-a-vis your revenue, and how much revenue you've been able to generate through that. So that is what we look at, that how much impact your marketing is actually having on your top line.
Right.
So we technically, I don't want to go into so much detail, but technically it is called ROAS. That is what we call it in our language. So we look at that. We look at that number, that how much you are generating.
Okay, Nidhi. So Gopal, you can go ahead.
Hi Nidhi, hi everyone.
Yeah, hi, Gopal.
This is Gopal from Vital Acres. Nidhi, my question was regarding the pricing part in the financial modeling. Like I am a co-founder of an agriculture-related startup. So in agriculture, the pricing, the product price is not like not governed by MRP.
Gopal, we lost you. I mean,
Yeah,
you're not audible.
yeah. Gopal is not
How
audible.
to?
Yeah, Gopal, you were not
Uh,
audible. I mean, please repeat your question from start.
sorry. My startup is related to agriculture products, right? So in this sector, the prices are very volatile, fluctuate. So in such a case, in the initial stage, how do we uh, mm, uh, decide a pricing, or what will be the
I think Gopal is not audible.
Gopal, we have
uh,
lost your voice. We are taking the question of Dipti. Meanwhile, I would request you to kindly type your question in the chat box and we'll take it up. Dipti, please go ahead. Dipti, you have any question? Is there anyone else who wants to go for the question? So I think Gopal is typing his question, and then we'll take it up. So meanwhile, we'll take a question from one more startup, that is SCON Smart Solutions. Please go ahead.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
So, actually, we are a startup and we have launched our first product. It's related to Corona, and the product is a multifunctional sanitizer dispenser, which is means different from others. Like it has a features like temperature scanning and fever warning, and many all. So we are in early stage marketing.
Mhm.
Uh, by the means of we are based in Bhubaneswar, so we have covered the area of Bhubaneswar and Odisha through physical marketing and conventional methods. But after seeing the potential of the product, we are means feeling that we need more marketing, rapid marketing like digital marketing and other ways. Means we want investment in marketing. So shall we go for investors for marketing expenses like advertisement and all?
Okay. So you want to know whether you want to go to investors to provide funds for your marketing, basically.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. So of course you can go. There's no problem in that. You can always reach investors. Usually people do come to investors to spend more on their marketing so that then they can expand their business further and achieve their dream top lines. So that gate is always open.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Nidhi, we have got question from Gopal. He's asking for the financial modeling. How do we decide on pricing strategy for a product whose prices are not governed by MRP? We are in agriculture sector and price fluctuation are very frequent.
Okay, but you can certainly forecast, certainly you can forecast a little bit. See, because when we talk about such markets whose pricing depends on the market, be it coffee or any kind of, your products or your spices and things like that, which is governed by the market shares, market price. So you can still forecast. See, again, here we take help of assumptions that the market is tarah se badhega. See, if we all knew in which side the market would go, I think we all would start investing in share market and stuff, and we would know, okay, iska to badhega, iska ghatega. So there is nothing like that. So that is again purely assumption. Yeah, so you have to make your forecast, you have to make your assumption based on maybe past and historical data you can always get of these agricultural products, whichever product you are in. You see the past, how it has been performing, look at the graph, and accordingly, you can project your future MRPs, right?
Okay. Okay. Gopal, you understood? So Nidhi, what percentage of COGS you would like to see while when in as per the sale price?
So, okay. So see, again, it depends on which sector you are in, but
No,
ideally,
I'm talking about food sector, particularly food sector.
food sector, mein, I think COGS can be anything around 30%,
30%. Okay.
30% ke around, yes.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. So the next is Kiva Agro Ventures. Please go ahead.
Hello, Nidhi.
Kiva Agro Ventures. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. Hello, Nidhi. Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, this is
Good morning.
Anita Das from Keva Agro Ventures. And my question is, when a new startup or a new business launched, on part of financial modeling, what are the parameters like on asset pricing or corporate finance or business evaluation? So, what are the things a fresher should, take into consideration in financial model?
See, when you are arriving to any, like if you are, approaching any investor from investment point of view, you have to consider, of course, the valuation, then your 5 years projections for your revenues and your expenses, and your capex should be there ready with you. That how much capital expenditure you've made so far and how much you're going to, do in future. So these are few things that you need to have handy, and then you can easily make your model and present it.
Okay, okay, and I think that that should be a platform for fresher entrepreneurs, so that from time to time, if they need any kind of suggestions or guidance, and for for that platform, they can come to and reach to that platform. So I think that should be a place so that we can reach on to there.
Yeah,
And
see,
yes.
once any investor has become interested in you and has, has planned to invest, and then if they have invested also, then certainly their guidance is always available. See, any investor, he has seen n number of types of companies because they've invested in n number of types of companies. So they know how each and every company, how the market works, how everything works. They have so much of knowledge that they can even read between lines. Even if you try to hide something from them, they can easily understand that. So
Okay,
if
okay.
any investor has has got interested in you and want to invest with you, want to join hands with you, definitely they will be there as a guide, as a mentor, or they will always be supportive with their portfolio companies, always. So you should always, not think कि यार इनको invest इसमें किया है, whether I should share, whether I should not share this information with the investor. I think it is always helpful and it is always advisable that you share whatever you're going through in your business with your investor, and then definitely they are there to help you out in whichever way
Oh,
they can.
yeah, that should be a clear picture between both of them. And
Right.
okay, yeah, actually, I also looking forward for a platform kind of thing, so that we can get information, knowledge as well from the platform.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Nidhi. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Nidhi, we have got one question from Arnav Abhijit. He says many times looking after various customer prospects, we fail to analyze to make a proper financial planning in the marketing part because customer varies in different prospect throughout regions. What would we do on that part?
You mean you're failing in your marketing strategy? You're not able to satisfy your customers. Is that it?
Looks like this only. Arnav, if you are there, please ask your question to Nidhi.
So, see, if you are not able to satisfy your customer, then that means your product is not maybe not able to satisfy the customer. So you need to maybe revamp it, or look for some kind of other kind of revamp it, or you try to make it in a manner that it is more acceptable to the customer. You will have to uh, see and do some R&D on your product. So or maybe you need to change into your marketing strategy. Maybe you're not able to convince the customer that the product is of use to the customer. So how you do it, that is again a very creative part. So for that, you get creative teams also, and you can hire some marketing agency also initially. And if in-house you have, and see, you must have thought about something before making that product. Right, you must have thought about कि ये इस चीज की use आएगा, इससे it will help the customer in this way, that way. So you have to bring that out in a very, very creative manner so that people get attracted. Initially, we never see human beings. We never used to wear shoes initially. Why did we start wearing shoes? Who created the demand for the shoes? So a demand was created for the shoes, that why shoe is important, why wearing a slipper is important. And now we have a huge market for footwears. So that's how you have to look at your product and then sell it accordingly.
Okay, Nidhi. The next question is from Think Raw. Please go ahead.
Hi Nidhi, good morning. Hi everybody. It's a very nice session. And my question is that, like, we are just not exactly startup. We are into solar EPC since 2016. But last 1.5 years we have been invented. You can say two products. One is for agriculture sector and one is for aquaculture sector. My question is that how we can project the amount, like the financial amount, like financials, if the market size will be changing. Like if it will be changing, then how we can fix up the price.
So if you can assume the market change, you can assume your price also. If you think your market is rising, accordingly, you can again assume that you can do this much volume of your business. If you think that market is falling, so if you can assume the market, as you're saying that the market is fluctuating, that means you know that in which way the market is going to go. Maybe it's going to go up, down, or maybe straight, and accordingly you can then base your revenues numbers accordingly.
How to pitch also investment, like investor, in the sense, like if I thought, like if I spoke to 100 to 200 farmers, right? Like example for the agriculture sector, like I spoke to near about 200 farmers, right? They told us, right? They gave us the order and everything, right? After that, like I did the projection that this was the cost I have to bear. And
so understood. See, agriculture sector as it is a very uncertain sector because it depends upon natural climate also a lot. So not necessarily the crop that you've imagined, you thought ki itna generate hoga will generate. Maybe there is a abundant crop also, and there can be lesser in number also, depending.
Yes, yes.
So this, if I can understand this, then even investor can understand this, right? So you can always make your assumption that the rainfall has been good, the crop has been good, and we've got a great crop, and we are going to sell this much. So these are all based on assumptions. Again, you can make your projections, but you can put down your assumptions. And you can also, if you think, writing anything negative we should always try to avoid. But otherwise also you can make a plan B. See, you can make two plans, plan A and plan B in this way.
Okay.
Yeah. So plan A is like everything goes as per your assumptions, that good rainfall, good everything, good market, good everything, no fluctuation. So we will reach here. But in case anything arises, anything happens, say there is a drop down. So because see, you have to calculate your risks also. Ultimately, it's you who's going to gain or it's you who's going to lose. So you must calculate your risk, and you can make side by side a plan B. Okay, in case this happens or the market falls, then this is where we will reach.
Okay, not an issue.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who is next? Is there anyone else left with any questions? I think everyone has asked. Over to you, Mr. Patnaik.
No, I'm just asking, Aman, did you have your question? Okay. So I just had a comparative for Madhu from ThinkRaw. Agriculture, but again, you got to look at your product's position. If it's on the agri outcome harvest dependent, or it is a must that every farmer is going to have it. So there are some products which are not dependent on the year-to-year, demand and fall of the things. Like somebody starts farming, it's anyway essential for farming, so they are taking your product. So one farmer buys once. So if your product is so much essential for farming, then he's buying it once, and it doesn't. It hardly depends on this time you had a drought, you had a flood or something like that. So also it is depending on like market up and down depends on your product directly impacting on your product or not. So what is your market? Your market is selling your product. Your market is not what is the outcome of agriculture. So if your product is giving some very essential level of intervention into farming, then people are taking it. And maybe at the time of something negative in the agriculture, if your product adds, so when the market is down, your product will be sold more. If it is really bringing efficiency into the agriculture, when the market is down, your product may be sold more. You're going to find out what factors are impacting on your product with respect to the market.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Satya, you have any questions? Okay.
So, no.
Now, please mute it. Thank you. Abhishek, I think if anybody has any question or something, please come up.
I think all questions have been answered.
So I guess all of us have understood what is the financial kind of seeds and diligences we got to do from data in our day-to-day businesses the day one you start from. So whoever is having, whoever don't, I'll be just checking it out and sending all these seeds, and at least we can start maintaining all this from from this month itself. So you get a very clarity of all the future parameters, like when to go for fund requirement, when you have what kind of valuation you're going to have, and what are the derivative parameters that it leads from this kind of kind of details have been maintained. So I think Abhishek, if Nidhi gives us that seeds, we'll see what specific things got to be changed for startup to start. Otherwise, also on the other way, we can prepare the seed and let you take a look on it.
Maybe
Can
you
very much.
Yeah,
Can
I think
you
that would
share the
be better
template?
if they can prepare and send it to us, and if anything we have to add on or make it better, we'll do it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
So our team will make that and send it to you. Please let us know so that we would start all the startups to maintain that. Okay.
Sure.
Thanks a lot. So Bhavesh has something to say.
Sorry.
Abhishek.
No, I
I
was
think
talking about the template.
I think done.
It's answered.
Yes, I think we have done. I mean, there's one question from Swan Smart Solutions.
Aman, can you come
Are you
up and
there?
ask?
Sir, I have asked the question.
Okay.
Okay, fine. So thank you so much, Nidhi, Abhishek, and Rukam for this is real and an enlightenment to all the startups who is starting with an idea also, and who has been there at different stages of the product and startup. So I think they will take the required corrections, and we will also handhold at the point, the kind of creating the seeds, letting them understand how to maintain it and all. So this would be really helpful. So thank you, startups, also being so vocal and put your concerns before the expert. And I hope we'll definitely start this in a couple of days. Getting the financial corrections in our day-to-day managements. Thank you so much from my side.
Thanks everyone. Thanks Nidhi.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone.